Welcome into the latest edition of our Cubs REKAP Podcast, a presentation of our Recap YouTube channel and available audio only everywhere you get your favorite podcasts. That's Gordon Wittenmyer. I'm David Kaplan. The Cubs were mired in a little difficulty the last time we spoke, Gordon.
They're still mired in difficulty, Cap.
They ended up with a 10-game losing streak. Yeah. They snapped it on Wednesday evening, bludgeoning the Pirates 10-4. And as you and I sit here on Thursday, May 28th, they are heading to the ballpark to take on Paul Skeens, Colin Ray on the Hill. So let's talk about the state of the Chicago National League Ball Club. I was more than a little ticked off, not just at the results, at the lifelessness I saw
I'm surprised
from the team and the manager.
I'm surprised you still got breath in you after the last 10 or 15 recaps you've done.
I was pissed.
After the games. My God, man.
I was mad.
They're terrible right now.
They're absolutely furious.
Look, they're not a good team. Like, look, I was the one who for the last few weeks was telling you, oh, don't worry about that lineup. You know, they'll come around. They'll be all right because they've been there, done that. And, you know, some of these guys are streaky and all that. Right now, they're just a bad lineup. I mean, they catch the ball, but they're hardly hitting it all. Wednesday night notwithstanding, Hap needed a couple days off, and he come back and look all right, but he looked terrible before that. Nico Horner's not even Nico Horner this year, and so they're not getting anything anywhere consistently out of the lineup. And the problem with that more than anything else, and maybe they're pressing because the problem with that more than anything else is that the pitching staff is so freaking beat to hell, even compared to some of these other pitching staffs around the game that have lost guys in the early going. I mean, the Cubs have lost, I think the Cubs have lost just about everybody in their rotation at one time or another already, and some of them still out, and some of them going to be out all year. And then the bullpen's been like at half strength for what, a month, 6 weeks?
Yeah.
And so that's a recipe for what we've seen. They've got 2 10-game winning streaks and a 10-game losing streak. And in my mind, the 10-game winning streaks are the aberration given where their health is and what their lineup looks like.
Yeah, it's going to be incumbent on Jed as soon as it's possible to acquire not one, but probably 2 decent to good starting pitchers.
Right? And he acquired Edward Cabrera in the offseason, which we thought was the exact kind of frontline depth and sort of redundancy that you build in to championship expectations.
Right, but all of a sudden there's no Cade Horton. Yeah. There's no Justin Steele.
There's no Cabrera.
There's no Matt Boyd, although he's at least throwing again, so he'll be back. He had the knee procedure done. And so now your rotation, by far your number one guy is Ben Brown. By far. His numbers are outstanding. So you've got Ben Brown. Which is,
if you'd have said this, though, going into the season, what would your reaction be? We're in trouble, right?
Correct.
And they're in trouble.
I would never have thought they'd be over 500 if you had told me all those guys would be gone.
No, and they may soon not be if they don't kick some stuff in the ass right now.
So they have Colin Ray, Jamison Tyone, who on Wednesday night pitched okay. He went 6 innings. I thought he gutted out 6 innings. 4 runs, a 3-run homer, and a solo. And then the bullpen did a magnificent job. So I picked up the phone, and I called Chip Carey. And I said, okay, Chippy boy, let me ask you a question. You had Phil Maton. This guy's driving me insane here. He's very hitterable, if that's a word. Hitterish, whatever you want to call it. And he said, I don't know what you guys are doing with him. I can just tell you we had him. He was lights out. He said, that dude can pitch. I'd want him in my bullpen. I said, wow, he just doesn't look like that guy here. He said, I can't explain it to you, but you better fix him because he's that good.
You think they're messing with him in their pitch lab or trying to do something to him that he hasn't done before?
I can't answer any of it. I can just tell you somebody that called this game said, that dude was lights out. We heard you got him. We were like, oh, boy, that's a great weapon for the Cubs.
There's no more pressure pitching in Wrigley than there is in Philly.
Or St. Louis.
But he's been there. So, yeah, well, maybe more than St. Louis. But, yeah,
So,
I can't explain it. That's not good.
Jameis Taillon, Colin Ray, who will face Skeens tonight, who was signed to be a long man.
Hey, Colin Ray's done his job.
Spot starter.
But if you expect him to do more than depth, you're in trouble.
Correct. So you got those two. You got Ben Brown. You got your guy, Shota Imanaga. And I want to take back the apology that Katie Langen made me do on social media, where I apologized to Shota. I'm like, Shota, I'm so sorry for doubting you.
You'll be apologizing again because he'll be what he is. He'll come and go over the course of the season.
It was your idea, Katie. And I'm looking at that rotation, and I'm going, okay, how do you spend, and I know there's injury, how do you spend 240 whatever million and have, as I said, Imanaga, Taillon, Ray, Ben Brown looking very good. And who am I missing? Who's the fifth one? Oh, we had Jordan Wick start the other night.
I know, Assad,
and he was terrible.
Did you mention Assad?
And they're stretching Assad out. He'll be back. So I look at this situation and I'm like, do you guys realize how fortunate you are to be where you are? Because you haven't had Cade Horton basically all year. You haven't had Steele at all this year. And Lord knows, they come on the other day on the broadcast and they said, let's go to Elise Menaker, who has good news about Justin Steele. I'm like, oh, finally. And she said, Justin was at Dr. Keith Meister today, and he got good news. He could start to strengthen his arm. I'm like, oh, wait, what? And he should be able to progress to throwing in the near future. I'm like,
good Lord.
Hang on a second.
That's
June. Not good news, Elise.
It's basically June.
Right. It's June on Monday, Elise. Strengthening his arm, what does that mean? Richard Simmons takes in a 3-pound weight?
That's what that means. It means next year.
They're hoping that he's back in August, is what I'm hearing. Okay.
August what?
Who knows?
And if he comes back in August, can you count on him to start games? Can you count on him for 5 innings? Never mind 6 or 7?
Absolutely not.
Maybe you're using him in the bullpen, and maybe the season's over by then.
Okay, so
and I know that sounds crazy because of where this team started and what it looks like on paper, but geez, you just got no pitching left.
Right. So this is not a shot at Elise. It is a shot at, that's not good news.
No.
So marquee management, please. I'm just asking you.
Look, it's marquee. Everything's good news.
Right. Don't spin it as good news because it's not. I'm not asking you to come out and go, well, the world's
you're spitting
ended.
in the wind on that. It's the
Cubs
marquee
lost
freaking
Justin.
network.
I'm not asking for that. Just say, well, we got a report on Justin Steele. It's not overly encouraging, but it's not bad news. That's fine. Don't spin it as good news.
You know,
Please,
I read somewhere that Reinsdorf network that took whatever the new age
CHSN.
Yeah, whatever. Shushin or whatever it is.
Right.
Yeah. So apparently on balance, just the whole thing. Apparently they do better than Marquee. This is what I'm reading. I don't know any of the numbers or what's true or not, but I can tell you this.
That is not exactly a true statement because I asked somebody that would know in the TV world.
You asked somebody at Marquee or with the Cubs.
I did not.
I'm sure you did.
I did not.
Look, my only point is this. If Marquee's not blowing them away, which they should, it's because they don't get their own market. Look, you're the Chicago Cubs sports fan market. You just sat here and bitched about Marquee trying to tell you something was good and putting a rosy face on it, and it turns out it was bad news because you know the difference. They don't know their own fan base. That's the problem. Tap into it. This fan base knows what it sees, and you don't have to put a positive spin on everything. That's been their problem since day one.
Okay.
So I don't know why you think it'd be any different.
What
now.
I was told by a TV executive was that CHSN was allowed to simulcast all 3 games on over-the-air television, and they combined the numbers. So those numbers combined were bigger than Marquee. They said It's not exactly true that CHSN blew away Marquee. The combination.
I didn't say anybody blew away anybody. My point is that even if it's close, it shouldn't be, and that's Marquee's fault.
Fair. And one other thing to the Marquee management, this is not a shot at the broadcasters. I like Boog very much. I like JD. This is not about that. Can we please stop with the side stories? I think I speak for a large segment of the
You
fan
mean
base.
when they tell the story at the expense of the action that actually just happened in the game?
I don't need to see the nacho platter in Texas. I don't need to know about Shota's rice cooker that he bought on Amazon that they travel with. I don't need any of that. I'd like to know why the Milwaukee Brewers are facing Shota, and 14 of the first 16 batters swung at the first pitch. That is obviously in a freaking scouting report. We're going to jump this guy's ass the first pitch. I want to know, tell me about that. What was in the game plan? Why would they do that? And then first and third, you're trying to hang alive in the game. First and third, and one out. And the guy on first is stealing second. Why would you throw through? Explain that to me, why you would throw through. That is just dumb, stupid baseball. And Dansby Swanson has to be a freaking Balishnikov down at second to scoop one out of the dirt falling down and hold the guy at third.
Dude, you got to turn down the volume when you're watching these games.
And it just drives me insane. I'm like, how about telling me about that? Why are we throwing through there? That's dumb baseball. How about Pete Crow Armstrong?
Because the nacho hat will make you happy.
It does not. And the other thing that bothered me the other night, Pete Crow Armstrong in the first inning, you got a man on first, Connor Griffin. He walks. Jordan Wicks walks the first hitter on 4 freaky pitches. I'm already pissed watching the game. And now the next guy gets a base hit to center. Connor Griffin can run like my co-founder Guff over here, fast as grease lightning. And he tries to go first to third. You could have a freaking bazooka and you're not throwing that guy out. PCA not only misses the cutoff, man, he airmails third base. So now the guy that got the single cruises into second. So now it's second and third, nobody out. How about somebody tell me why Craig Counsell doesn't air his center fielder out, who I like very much, and say, I'm not going to deal with this fundamental mistake bullshit anymore. That's one. And then you go to the top of the second. You're down 5-0. And Ian Happ comes up after Bregman doubles. Ian Happ gets a double. He's standing at second with nobody out. It's 5-1 now. You're trying to hang around.
Dude, this
and
is our podcast. This isn't the recap. We don't need like
pissed.
A week's
and
recap.
Fly ball to Valdez, the right fielder.
Hey, let me ask you something.
Why tag up there
Let's just
and
back
get
up.
thrown out?
Let's back up at least 5,000 feet on this for a second. You brought up PCA, which I think is really interesting because PCA is playing at times these days like he's in his head, right? And he might have already been, because this is a guy that plays with emotion on his sleeve.
I love PCA,
and right, that's a very entertaining thing, and you like to see players who show it most of the time. But since the Sox incident, it seems like more stuff's maybe been in his head, and it makes me wonder. Like, I want to know your opinion on this, because I've thought about this. I thought about it at the time. I was just in New York. Mm-hmm. Their media, one of the New York papers,
we're a bunch of kittens around here.
Yeah, you got that
York.
right. One of the columnists in New York wrote about the PCA incident and how MLB dropped the ball on only fining him and not suspending him for what was a pretty misogynist comment, to say the least. Mm-hmm. And there's precedent, right? There was a player a few years ago that got suspended for a homophobic slur. There was in this town, Tim Anderson got suspended for using the N-word to yell at a pitcher that hit him with a white pitcher who hit him with a pitch. And MLB suspended him because of their zero tolerance policy without any concept of culture or nuance in who used it and how and what that meant. So they've had a very strong stance on this, but when it came to this one in PCA, they just sort of ignored it, slap on the wrist. It made me think that, and they ripped MLB for doing this. And I agreed with that column. I think MLB dropped the ball on this. But
so you think he should have been suspended?
I think he should have been suspended for a couple of games. And more than that, I think, and you can tell me what you think, I don't think the Cubs would have minded that. Maybe give the guy a couple of days to think about that. think about some other stuff.
Well, if they wouldn't have minded it, why didn't they just sit him against Mizorowski?
Because it's
or
really
against,
because it's
Kyle
a lot
Harrison.
easier to have that decision taken out of your hands, especially with a young player. I'm just saying that I'm just suggesting that I'm putting the onus on MLB for not suspending him, but I'm saying I don't think the Cubs would have necessarily minded either.
Well, he got a $5,000 fine, and
which is nothing.
And he showed
a drop in the bucket. The guy just signed a $115 million contract.
Correct. But he did show contrition, which probably played into the decision.
Oh, big friggin' deal. You don't think all these guys show contrition when they get...
Probably. I'm just saying he did, and that's probably what played into it. I got another question for you. The other day, I'm watching Urebe, the closer for Milwaukee, and he starts in with some pretty explicit histrionics towards Burleson and the Cardinals dugout.
I know where you're going with this, and I love what happened. I love what happened.
So did I. So he got strike 3. Ball game over. And he started with all this histrionic stuff and thrusting his hips. And the Cardinals challenged the pitch. It turns out it was a strike. Ball game over. Brewers win. And then they asked Pat Murphy about the histrionics. You could even hear it in the Cardinal broadcast. Oh, wow, do you see what he's doing? And there's bad blood now between the teams. And Pat Murphy said, I don't understand why he would do that. That is inappropriate. It's unacceptable. Like, he blasted him.
He blasted him to his face. He caught him on the way into the dugout and said, we don't do that shit.
And then blasted him to the media.
Yes.
The media asked, and some people went, I can't believe he didn't just say, we'll handle that internally and move on. No. He called
Urebe didn't handle it internally.
He did not.
So he got a right
Pat
to
Murphy
go public.
Absolutely blasted him to the media. I've spoken to him. That's unacceptable. And he went on. It was a lengthy quote. And I do not think that his mentee, the $8 million man in our dugout here in Chicago.
Isn't that his mentor?
The mentor is Pat Murphy. The mentee.
I think it's the other way around, right?
No, Craig is the mentee. He learned from Pat Murphy.
Oh, I see.
Even though
I thought he was groomed.
Craig missed
Murphy
the meeting
was groomed to become a manager by counsel.
But counsel played for
all right, whatever.
First. Craig must have missed his mentor's meeting when he talked about the accountability factor, because I loved what Pat Murphy did, and I don't love the way Craig sometimes handles it.
Are you late to the party on this manager thing? I've said from the start Murphy's a better manager. He's already shown that. And this was just the latest example.
I'm not disagreeing with that.
I mean,
Craig is vastly overrated. I'm not saying he's not a bad baseball guy.
No, he's not a bad baseball guy.
And he's a good guy.
He's not even a bad manager. He's just not a great one.
Right, he's an average manager.
Yeah, he's fine. He shouldn't be the highest paid manager in the game. I don't know who the hell chose to give him that kind of money.
That was what it cost to get him out of Milwaukee.
You didn't need to.
Well, hold on a second. And I like Rossi. He's a good dude. They're not beating his door down to get a job either. And he acknowledged that. He said, yeah, nobody's calling.
Well, I know that he has talked to some teams about job openings.
But he didn't get one.
No, you're right. But there's
30 major league jobs.
Look, the fact is that with exactly the same team, he did exactly what Counsell did. 83 wins. And we don't know what he would have become as a manager after that. Remember, he came in, his first year was a pandemic year. His second year was also a pandemic spring training. And his third year was a labor-impacted spring training, a short spring training because of that. So 23 was the first year that was a normal year start to finish. He had a winning record. They flirted with playoff possibilities. And then Jed sings his praises and lets him go a month thinking he's got the job. And by the way, the day that Jed banged on his door to tell him he was fired earlier in that day, he let him have a meeting, a remote meeting with team officials to discuss planning for the offseason. They didn't even do him the courtesy of postponing the meeting, knowing that they were going to knock on his door and fire him. That was
because nobody knew what Jed was up to. Jed knew, correct.
And if it's dropping that day, or if it even has a chance to drop that day, just postpone the meeting. Just say, hey guys, let's
something came up. We're gonna do this tomorrow.
I mean, you talk about just horrible optics. Never mind the optics. Externally, internally, I've talked to some people that were involved in that team at the time. There's a lot of people that aren't named David Ross who look at that with bitterness.
Okay, so the Cubs are sitting now, they're what, 4 or 5 games over 500. They're hanging around. I fully expect that Jed will make some type of a deal, not for a top-end starter right now, because I don't think those guys are getting moved, although I heard there were double-digit number of teams watching Joe Ryan the other night, who was magnificent against the White Sox till Murakami took him.
They've got to get whoever the best guy is out there, or at least if there's 3 really good ones, they got to get one. There's no coming in second place on this, because you need more than one. So you better get one. And here's the biggest reason why. This division is the best division in baseball, and it's not going away. The Pirates have health and talent, and a lot of that talent's really young and getting better. The Reds are going to get healthier with their pitching staff. They're already starting to, and they're playing better. They almost took 3 out. They lost all 4 games in Chicago, but 3 were walk-offs that they lost in the Cubs' last at bat. And that was when their bullpen wasn't pitching well. They're getting healthy now and pitching better. They're going to be there. We know the Brewers are going to be there. And the Cardinals haven't had a losing record at any point this season. I don't know what's gotten into the Cardinals. To me, they shouldn't be where they are. But until they show that they can't, they've beaten everybody they've played in the division. Until they show they can't do that, I got to believe that they're going to hang around. This is a hell of a division. This might be a historic division, because the last time a division had 3 teams with winning records, even this late in the season, was 3 years ago. It was the AL East.
So my question is, I think he'll make a deal in the relatively near future for like a number 4 type starter to give him some, somebody that could take a ball. I don't think one of the big guys is getting moved in the next 2 weeks. I don't think, Scooble's not even healthy. I don't think Joe Ryan's getting moved. The Twins are a freaking playoff team. We're close right now.
That's the problem with the American League, is that if you've got some players, and if you
Sandy Alcantara,
even if you got guys out, if you think they're coming back, the American League is wide open.
Sandy Alcantara, it will probably get moved. That will cost a fortune.
Peralta probably.
But not yet.
Do
you think they're going to move him now? The Mets just fold the tent?
The Mets?
Yeah.
I just saw the Mets. They're awful. You want to bitch and moan about your ball club spending $240-something million. They're spending $340 million on that mess out in Queens. It's awful. They look terrible. They should have got swept. And if it wasn't for the Reds leaving 17 guys on base yesterday, they would have. They would have got blown out in 3 games. So they're terrible. And yes, I don't think I don't think they're going to get better anytime soon.
Okay, if you're Jed and your phone rang and it's whoever the guy is who runs the Marlins, I don't know who it is, and he says, I want Jackson Wiggins and I want Pedro Ramirez and I want Kevin Alcantara, and you look and you go, well, hold on a second, what am I getting back? You know what Sandy Alcantara's start was yesterday, 2 days ago? 5 2/3, 10 hits, 8 runs, all earned, 3 home runs in 95 pitches.
Who were they playing?
They lost at Toronto. And then the start before that, he pitched at home against Atlanta. 6 innings, 9 hits, 6 runs, all earned, 2 home runs. I don't want that. Give up all my good assets for that?
You're the
ass.
You're the one that just proposed the deal. Who says that's the deal?
No, I'm saying I'm just giving you the top guys we have. Yeah. Whoever they ask for, he's got another year under contract.
Dude, if that's the best guy out there, you got to get him. Otherwise, you're giving the finger to the fans.
He's got to be good. He's been terrible.
He is good. Unless he's hurt, he's going to be fine.
Okay, in the month of May, he had 3 starts where he allowed 6, 7, and 8 runs. Yeah, no, pass. I better see a great month of June.
Well, then you're not going to have to worry about a high price. I don't know what you're setting up these hypotheticals that aren't going to come into play. whoever is the best guy out there or the best 2 or 3 guys out there, they got to get one of them. It may not be Alcantara by then.
I'm hoping that it's Joe Ryan if he's healthy, because I watched him against the Sox the other night, and Murakami took him deep in the 8th to tie the game. Well, let me tell you something. Till that at bat, that guy was mastering a pretty darn good White Sox team. That guy was a beast.
I'll tell you what. Freddie Peralta is the guy to go get.
Freddie Peralta?
I think Freddie Peralta is the guy to go get.
Well,
he knows the division.
He does.
He can, he's got comfort zone in every single one of those ballparks. The division play is going to be so crucial this year with how tough the division is that should matter. He knows the Brewers better than anybody.
See, all I'm saying is that, and I'm as guilty of it as anybody. We all think it's so easy. Well, just go get this guy. Like I was talking.
We all think that? No, I'm glad you included yourself in that.
We all it's that easy. I was talking to a good friend of mine who's a Sox fan, and he wants to add on, we can win the division. Yeah, that Sox team might be able to win that division. He's like, why can't we get Freddie Peralta? Why can't we get this guy? I said, well, what are you willing to give up? He doesn't want to give up any of their top prospects. None. I'm like, then you're not getting him.
Yeah.
They're not going to take your 12th ranked prospect and go, here's Freddie Peralta. You can have him because you're the White Sox. It's not going to happen. Same for the Cubs. Not going to happen. And all of a sudden, Jackson Wiggins is going to be pitching for the New York Mets. You'd be like, this guy's a beast. Yep. And you gave him up for 3 months of Freddie Peralta. You better be convinced he can help you win.
What did I hear about after the PCA Baez trade? Wasn't there? Didn't the Mets not want to make deals with the Cubs?
They were mad about that trade.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, he was
I can't remember if that was a Cohen thing or whether that was below him.
He was not Jed's first choice. PCA was his second choice. He wanted the catcher, Alvarez. And the Mets went, no, you can't have him. He said, all right, I'll take PCA. Now, I've heard that Jed really wanted PCA, and he said, give me Alvarez. And the way they said, no, all right, I'll settle for the injured Armstrong kid, because he was injured at the time.
Right. And he had just been drafted.
Right. He had a shoulder problem.
Yeah.
I think he had surgery.
He did.
And so they got PCA, and it worked out to be 3 months of Javi Baez for this. Oh, I mean, that's a steal.
Yeah. And the best part about it is, from where we sit, what a story. What a backstory. I mean, Baez was his favorite player. His dad's a Cubs fan. His parents are actors.
Yeah, it was perfect. Little
Mom
big
was
league.
in the movie.
Okay, so Freddie Peralta's last start was last Saturday. 7 innings, 8 hits, 4 runs there earned, 2 home runs allowed, 9 Ks. The start before that, he faced the Yankees at home. 5 innings, 2 hits, 3 runs there earned, 1 home run, 4 Ks. But he walked 6. Had a bad walk time. He's usually got good command. Before that, 6 innings, 7 hits, 2 runs, 1 home run, 1 walk, and 7 Ks.
And
he's absolutely had a good season.
He can pitch. He can be competitive and give you a chance to win, even if it's not his best day.
I would absolutely take a shot there.
And he knows the division.
But that's going to cost a painful price.
No matter who they go out and get, if they get somebody that can actually help them, it's going to be painful.
Yeah.
But they have to do it. The only thing more painful is not getting a deal like that done and then just continuing to roll downhill like a snowball the rest of the fucking season. Oh, effing season. Sorry.
Well, the Cubs coming up, they have the Cardinals for 3 this weekend, then the Athletics, and then a combination of home and road with Rockies, Giants, Rockies, and that's a 15-game run where you better play
they
well.
might actually have the better manager in some of those games.
This guy's brutal. Craig, that was him. That was not me. That was him. I may not be your biggest fan. That dude is not a Craig Counsell guy.
I just get asked the question. That's all. I'm not out there throwing bombs. People ask me a question, and I tell you what I think.
Gordon, have a great rest of your day.
All right, you too.
All right, there you go. That's Gordon Wittenmyer. I'm David Kaplan. That's another edition of our Cubs Recap Podcast, presentation of our Recap YouTube channel, and available audio only everywhere you get your favorite podcast. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and please tell all your friends, subscribe to the Recap. We'll see you next time. Take that.